The monster under the bed is there for a reason. My monster has always been there from my earliest memories. It had been under my bed before my memories when I was still in a crib. When I was hardly a toddler, I think I saw it. I am unsure, as most of our memories begin at about age 5. But this image of a black thing in the night opening my window and crawling under my bed has always been with me. It terrified me then. My crib was placed across from the window so I could see the woods behind the house when I stood. I'm sure that is where it came from. I remember hiding under my covers, too frightened to yell for Mommy. I'd cry and try to stay silent. Mom would dress me and place me on the floor to play in the morning. I could see under the crib and often crawled under, and there was no sign of any monster having spent the night there. When I told my mommy that there was a monster under the bed, I got what you would expect. "Ah, honey, there are no monsters under the bed." She accepted it as my imagination and promised to get a nightlight for my room. The nightlight helped, and it was months before I saw the black shadow crawl through the window and sneak under my bed, as silent as a cat. This occurred over months. It could come one night and not be seen again for 3 months. I was too scared to look under the bed when it was there. I stayed silent and would not move in the night. The backyard of my house backed up to a big wood. It was dense and green in summer and twisted vines of gray in the winter. I never went into the woods as the black shadow came from there, which made me wary of what else might be in there. If there was one monster, there certainly could be more. They most likely would capture and torture me or whoever ventured in there. They probably eat children. Who knows what they eat? Was there one beast that was master over them who commanded them to obey and hunt children at night? I didn't want to find out. I stayed out of the woods. So why didn't I shut and lock my window at night? I was too little for many years and needed more strength and technical knowledge to shut and lock the window. I was just a toddler. I was left penned up in my crib until morning. And when I got my own bed and could shut and lock the window, one of my parents would have opened the window to let in some fresh air and sunlight, and it was better to sleep at night with the cool air because my bedroom would get stifling hot, especially in the summer. The monster didn't always, and at this age, the black shadow monster seldom came. I was at one point convinced it didn't really exist. I had heard that from my mother and father for years now. Before long, I was 12 years old and pretty sure I had grown out of the nighttime fear of the black shadow who came under the bed. Other kids told stories that they saw glowing eyes and snarling teeth monsters when they were little, but they knew now that they were just little kids' bad dreams. One night I was in my bed and the window was closed as it was fall and getting cold at night. I had just fallen asleep when I felt a cold air blow across my face. As I lay still wide-eyed in the darkness, I heard that scraping sound that the window makes when it is being lifted. I froze and slipped my head under the pillow, peeking out from underneath into the darkness. To my sheer terror, the window opened wide, and the cold night air swept the room with a scent of dread. I couldn't see from under the pillow what it was, but something large came into the room. It was my worst chilling nightmare that the beast master from the forest had finally come to feast on my flesh. I was panicked. Should I scream? Should I run? Should I remain silently unmoving? If I move, will the black shadow grab me by my feet and eat them so I cannot run? The chill in my room was as cold as the freezer in which Dad stored his hunting kill. I was shivering from chattering teeth to my toes. It's so cold, so trapped in the kill freezer. I was petrified. I could not scream, my voice frozen. Then I saw it. In the moonlight, a much bigger black shadow crossed the window. It was the more terrifying beast from the forest, where I never ventured. It had come hunting me. I'm crying as I know it is coming for me, and this is my last night on Earth. Then, in a whisper, I heard my name, Isabel. It wasn't human, but I understood it. It was whispering to me from under the bed. A hand, but not a hand. More of a clawed hook touched my leg. I looked down and saw the black shadow monster beneath my bed, reaching up to me and extending a hand. It didn't grab me, just signaled and whispered, "Come!" The master of the darkness now completely covered all light from my window. Even though I feared the monster under my bed, I feared the beast outside the window even more. I crawled under the bed, dragging my blanket with me. Surprisingly, the creature made room for me and whispered. My heart was pounding, but I did not make a sound. I curled up under my blanket and lay silent as possible. I heard from under the bed behind me again. Then a loud thump came as something big and dreadful went through the window. The cold bit through me with its sharp teeth, my body shivering uncontrollably. I wanted to scream but knew better than to hold it in. I was biting my tongue so hard I could taste the blood in my mouth. I didn't dare to look what had followed the monster into the bedroom. I kept my eyes covered. I was counting the footfalls that moved across the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I wasn't sure, but the forest creature had 6 or even 8 legs. I have never been so frightened. Was this the end of my short life? I was crying. It seemed that I lay there shivering forever under the bed. Then, dawn light turned the room a gray blue, and the temperature returned to normal. The monster hidden with me under the bed slipped away and disappeared into the woods. I never got a look at it or the great beast that came into the room. All I knew was that I was safe. I have learned that there are many monsters in the forest, and some are worse than others. Some are so terrifying to chase other monsters to hide under the bed. I sleep with my window open at night now. I'm not frightened at what comes to hide under my bed, but I am terrified of what chases it there. Because that monster that hides there, I owe my life. I leave a way in for it. A monster under the bed may be there for good reason. And after all, what comes after it may be far worse for you if it weren't there. The worst nightmares begin in childhood until they become real in the middle of the night. Like all children, I had a fear of the dark. I could not sleep until my father tucked me in and followed a regimen of checking the bathroom and the closet in my bedroom. But most importantly, he got down on his hands and knees and looked under the bed. When all was secure, he would sit on the edge of my bed and tell me a story. He made up all kinds of stories. I was always the princess, not just because I was the belle of the ball, but because I was a ferocious fighter for the kingdom. I was brave and courageous and undaunted by the evilest of dragons and monsters. No villain in the realm could succeed when I was called to duty. I had secret powers of invisibility and could cloak myself when in danger. I was a master at escape, and no villain could keep me. But uncertainty still haunted me in the dark. The boogeyman just waited under my bed for me to close my eyes. I dared not to leave a foot uncovered dangling over the edge of the bed, for fear whatever lurked beneath would grab hold with its gangly fingers and devour me or pull me down into some lair to feed its children with my flesh. That moment between day and nighttime dreams was where the monsters lived. I'd tell Dad to recheck the closet after stories and look under the bed again, please, just in case he missed a spot. As I got older, I didn't want Dad to tell me silly princess stories. I preferred to message with my friends on Facebook or Instagram or scroll through TikTok. Dad, I know, didn't like not having his nighttime ritual with me, I know. I could hear him walking around the house, checking the doors and locking the windows. He always stopped by my door and said, "If you need anything, I'm just down the hall." I was happy to be on my own and the monsters under the bed had vanished, but I still got down and looked just to be sure. Until one night, all was good. I had been chatting with my friend and being silly, dancing around my room and listening to music. I was 12 and often turned my light out at midnight after Dad was asleep. That night, I was so tired, I just dropped into bed being happy, saying goodnight to my friend and turning the light out. I had just snuggled in and was in that in-between space where I wasn't awake or asleep when I felt it more than I heard. I thought, oh no, an earthquake, and I'm so tired. But the mild shake stopped as abruptly as it had begun. I waited hesitantly and nothing. I closed my eyes and was again the moment before sleep when I heard a low growl. I froze, motionless. I lay in my bed, listening with all my might. A shuffle shook the bed, and the low growl again reverberated through my mattress. Something was under the bed. Frantic thoughts coursed through my mind. What do I do? My cell phone was on the nightstand, but I had to reach across to get it. The shake and the growl, now more of a groan, shook the bed more forcefully. I reached out, grabbed the phone, and retreated under the covers. "Siri," called Dad, I whispered in fear. "Hey, sweetie, what's up?" he answered on the first ring. "It's under the bed," I whispered in a hushed voice. "Oh, sweetie, you are just having a nightmare." "Dad, it is under the bed," I breathed with tears. 3 seconds later, the bedroom light clicked on, and Dad stood with a can of pepper spray. My bed shook violently as if in the movie Exorcist. It pushed me up, heaving me almost off the mattress. I screamed in fright. A twisted hand reached out from under the bed and pulled a corpse-like body after it. Its skeleton face looked at my father with malice. The top of its head was now at bed level with a ragged cap from which gray, stringy hair fell. On the other hand, a knife rusted with age and caked with filth. The grotesque man was quicker than lightning and sprang with a roar at my father, pushing him down. The can of mace flew across the room from his hand as he fell. He was on top of my father, stretching to the ceiling with both hands clasping that hideous knife pointed down. My brave nighttime stories girl kicked into life. I sprang from my bed, rolling across the bedroom floor, snapping up the mace and pulling the pin as I shouted to gain the beast's attention. It hesitated just a second and looked into my eyes. A second was all I needed. The 10-foot spray blasted the creature in its eyes, and the monster roared loudly. Dad thrust upward with all his strength, and the gruesome man fell backward. I hit him with another full burst of the mace until I heard him choking and gasping. He crawled back under the bed and we escaped the chilling nightmare into Dad's room, locking the door and calling the police. The police found the man under the bed and dragged him out, handcuffing him. He was a known meth head, and how he got into our house and under my bed is still a mystery. He was taken away, and we were told they took him to a treatment center. There are many stories of ghosts under the bed. Some are childhood imaginations and some are sworn to be true. Mine really happened. I'll tell you my story. My husband received a new assignment in Bucharest. We arrived with our daughter Amelia and went on a house hunt with a real estate agent. Amelia is 15, so proximity to a good school was a priority. We were shocked at the price of homes in Bucharest Center as we searched. As it turns out, Bucharest is the wealthiest city in Romania, and the housing prices reflect that. The agent said he knew of a house for sale that had been on the market for a long time, and the price had been significantly reduced. It was rumored among the locals to be inhabited by a ghost, so it was not selling. Romania is no stranger to ghost stories. It has a long, macabre history, and the population's beliefs are strong. Remember, this is the town where Vlad the Impaler presided, and Dracula's castle is not far away. Vampires rule the nights, and werewolves roam the forests. Well, my husband and I didn't believe in such things, and the house was well priced and well located near the finest school for Amelia. It was a beautiful house with plenty of room. 3 big bedrooms on the 2nd floor and a 4th on the 3rd floor with a magnificent view from an expansive balcony. We could host my family when they came to visit at Christmas. It was wonderful. Our next task was to furnish the place. It needed everything. The previous family left only a bed in the 4th bedroom on the 3rd level. Amelia instantly shouted, "I call it! It's my room, my bed!" It was a beautiful hand-carved bed with swirls and motifs of cherubs and angels. It really was a bed made for a princess. And the room was roomy and private, with lots of light through the balcony door. It was a perfect room for a young girl. The furniture for the rest of the house was delivered in a couple of days, and we were ready to move in. On that day, Tom was called to Berlin for a meeting, so it would be only Amelia and I the first week in the house. Tom flew to Berlin, and Amelia and I settled in. We both were delighted with our new home. Until late in the night, all was well. Amelia was awakened by a voice calling her name in a soft whisper, "Amelia." Amelia turns on the bedside lamp and looks around the room. There is no one there. She leaves the lamp on and falls back to sleep, only to be reawakened with the click of the light being turned off. The room fell into darkness. She turns and clicks the lamp back on. No one is there, so again, she lays her head on the pillow and falls asleep. In the morning, over breakfast, Amelia tells me that someone called her name in the middle of the night and that the lamp turned itself off. I explained to Amelia the house is several hundred years old and old houses have their own idiosyncrasies. They creak and moan, and that's probably why everyone thought this old place was haunted. I told her she would quickly adjust and get used to the sounds. The second night, Amelia again hears the whispered soft voice. "Amelia, Amelia, come play with me." She gets out of bed and hears the voice coming from under the bed. But when she looks, there is a white glow like a mysterious mist swirling as if in a light breeze. That is when I heard Amelia scream, but as she turned to run from her room, the mist with long arms encircled her and dragged her down on the floor, dragging her under the bed. That is when I entered the room. Amelia was lying on the floor, half under the bed, crying and flailing her arms and feet. "Mommy, save me!" she was crying. I asked her what had happened. "Are you having a nightmare?" "Mommy, there is something under the bed," she cried. I lifted her up and sat her on her bed. I got down on my hands and knees and peered under the bed. There was nothing under the bed. "There is nothing under the bed, dear. You are having a bad dream. Calm yourself and go back to sleep. I'll sleep with you tonight." We both fell asleep. But for a second time in the night, the voice came again. Amelia heard it and turned on the light. I was unaware as I was sound asleep as Amelia climbed out of bed and looked under the bed. She was confronted with a terrible demonic soul of what she later described as a girl about her age. At this encounter, Amelia screamed bloody murder and collapsed unconscious. I bolted upright and held my unconscious Amelia on the floor. I peered under the bed and nothing was there. I tried to rouse Amelia, but she was catatonic with fear. In an hour, she opened her eyes but did not speak. For the following day, she only sat staring out the balcony door, not even blinking. The third night, I again slept with Amelia in her bed. She was silent but otherwise relatively normal when I kissed her goodnight and pulled the covers over us. Again, as I slept, Amelia heard the whispered voice, "Amelia, Amelia, come, let's play." Amelia climbed out of bed in her nightgown and looked under the bed. The white mist took the shape of a young girl who crawled out, giggling. "Come, I have a game." Taking Amelia's hand, she led her to the balcony, where she climbed atop the balcony ledge and danced like a fairy in the moonlight. "Come, it's fun," she giggled. "Look at me." I'm a ballerina. It was to the sound of giggling that I awoke and, to my horror, saw Amelia dancing with pirouettes on the balcony ledge. I moved swiftly, not turning on the light so as not to frighten Amelia. When she turned towards the city, she stumbled and, with both arms wide, started falling forward. I lunged and grabbed her in both my arms. I stepped back, pulling the falling girl back onto the balcony where we dropped together. I said to Amelia, "What on earth were you thinking?" She replied with a giggle. "I was dancing with Christina. It's her favorite game." I called the real estate agent in the morning and asked, "What was the house's mystery?" He said, "I don't know the details, but the rumor was that many years ago, a family lived in the house who befell a tragic event. Their young daughter, Christina, fell to her death from the third-floor balcony. Each family since has experienced the girl's apparition, often described as a white mist. Some families have simply locked the third floor and left it untouched. Others have moved on quickly. We discussed the ghost under the bed when Tom returned from his meeting. In the 3 days before Tom returned, Amelia had made a friend of Christina, and at night, she would come out from under the bed and talk and play. I locked the balcony door, and Amelia made it clear to Christina that they could never play on the balcony again. Christina seemed satisfied, and we lived with a ghost under the bed.